Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Today is, I'd like to call this a regular Board of Education meeting to order. Today is January 10th. It is 7:35. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'd like to get started with some recognition. We have some special students here with us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Before we do an update and recognition for our students who attended the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education meeting, I did want to just give everybody an update that we did meet with Leah Komorowski and a group of high school students as a follow-up to her public comment. So it's exciting to see that 2 meetings in a row, we have high school students who are being leaders and demonstrating their voice in a very appropriate way. And I feel like I can say this, even though it's more great minds on that end than on this end, but I went to the same conference. They're the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents, partnered with CABE. So I was there on Friday. I believe you all went on Saturday. So at the conference, they had students who were presenting to the superintendents, and I found some of what they were saying very intriguing. I made a note to myself, what can you do to promote student voice when you get back? Like, do something, just to remind myself. And by the time I got back, I had an email about these 3 students that we're going to honor tonight, that they had gone to the conference, that they felt empowered from the conference, and that they had some ideas that they wanted to share. So we were able to get together pretty much the day that we returned from that weekend and have a conversation about what were things that really struck a chord with them that they wanted to try to change in their own school, or what were questions they had, and just really promote that type of curiosity and conversation. So they are here tonight. I did try to give them a little heads up that I'd love for them to share a little bit more about their experience from their perspective, and both Mr. Apicelli, Mrs. Singleton are ready to continue to have conversations with them. I will be joining them. I know that Rita Quiles Glover joined, so it's really becoming like a district effort to try to listen to our students as much as we can across the buildings, and I'm really happy to present Sam Barnes, Naomi Andrews-Kowal, and Aurora Smithwick for being innovative problem solvers. If you would not mind scooting your chair over to that table, and then you're going to press up on the microphone so that the line is down so everybody can hear a little bit more about your experience. While they're getting settled, a little round of applause. So you just got to push the line forward on the microphone. There you go.
So we're very thankful to have had the opportunity to go to the CABE convention, and there we talked about a unique perspective on the challenges facing public education, and we got to meet with student representatives from several different schools and towns and educational leaders from around CT, and they pressed the importance of a student voice on the board and availability of more student representatives to the entire school. In interaction with the other students, we discussed improvements that could be made in the system and classroom, as well as the benefits student representation has already achieved and hopes to achieve.
I was definitely glad I went because it definitely broadened my perspective on how students should be more involved and how important it really is. And one thing that I learned when I was there is, like, because students are in school every day and they see and hear things that teachers and administrators might not even notice, and I just think it's really good for them to have more of a voice. And I think that the convention really aimed to bring student representation to another level and to help it be recognized as more of an asset.
My opinion of the CAPE convention, I think it was very resourceful to help students' voices come out. I mean, that's the entire point of it. But for example, one of the students was talking about a stand-in to their school because there was racism happening, and I think that's an excellent example of student voice and being able to spread that throughout the school. It was really trying to get the point across of of students being able to like spread their ideas to like school administrators and being able to like really be able to connect with them instead of having like just like separate between students and just administrators. So that's my opinion.
Wow. Can I just say how impressed I am, listening to you guys and taking your Saturday to go to a conference like this. I just feel like you're showing an example of leadership that we are trying to embrace and encourage in our community. And when I was your age, I didn't know what the Board of Education did. I had no idea, and I feel like I wish I did. So I'm really, really proud, and thank you for, and if you have any other thoughts and ideas that you're seeing, like, we're always willing to listen. So great job, you guys. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, thank you again. And just as a follow-up, something that we've been focusing on as administrators is putting in place mechanisms and platforms for students to be able to do this a little bit easier. I think, we have 3 extraordinary leaders here who took it upon themselves to go, but I'm sure there are more students within our schools, when given the opportunity, would take advantage of that. So we've had those conversations at each of the schools of how can we put in place a dedicated time or a dedicated venue to be able to allow these conversations to happen. And then people feel free to come to those. Now, we want to encourage them not to wait for that. If there's a time you want to walk down to the principal's office or knock over at the superintendent office, we're always available. But it does make it easier to have mechanisms and platforms in place. This is something I'll be talking more with the board about inviting students to subcommittees, et cetera, to start generating more conversation at the board level. And the other note that I had that I didn't really share earlier that I want the students to hear again is I wrote down listen, but then I wrote down act, because I think it's 2 different things, to invite them in and make them feel heard, but then do nothing about it. So we're really trying to listen, and it's interesting to have some of the back and forth. I referenced a conversation with Leah in that group. We didn't agree on everything that they put out there, and that's what we've talked about. That's the back and forth we want to look for. Not everything a student says they want are we going to be able to give them, but they should at least be able to ask for it and understand why. And it's been a great, productive start to some of these conversations.
Great. Thank you guys so much. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Sarah, if I could, I'd really be interested. So one of the things they just said is so they notice things. What do they notice? I'd just really be curious on some of the things, not the little stuff, but I'd really be curious on some of the things, because they're absolutely right. The walls have ears and the walls have eyes, and I would be curious to see what they do notice. So, thanks.
I was going to ask, what are their next steps now that they go into this conference? What are they going to do now?
Okay, we have some communication. We have a couple of letters of retirement.
Yeah, so typically when I get these letters that I share with you, I try to paraphrase and put my own twist on them, but I felt both of these were so well said that I wanted to read, exactly what they wrote. So Ken Hustis is a custodian at the middle school, and he feels it's time to hang up his hat and retire. So he will be retiring as of March 31st, 2023, and he says that he appreciates the opportunity working in Lebanon Public Schools and is willing, if we're able to hire before they leave, to do some crossover training. Congratulations to Ken. And Mike Giza, who is an instructional assistant at the middle school's last day of work in Lebanon will be January 31st, 2023. He taught physical education for what he called a memorable 37 years, and then followed it by 6 glorious years as an instructional assistant here in Lebanon. How could I make better word choice than that? So he'll be retiring. He's looking forward to the next chapter in his life, but he wants to thank everybody in Lebanon Public Schools for the support and guidance over the years. So congratulations to Mr. Giza as well.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, we have come to our public participation portion of the agenda. A according to Lebanon Board of Education bylaws, we will allow 30 minutes with each individual speaker, 2 minutes to speak. At this time, are there any members of the public who wish to speak this evening? Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Rachel.
My name's Rachel Archer at 340 Trumbull Highway, and this is...
I'm Carrie Schwartz at 83 Levita.
I am the president of the LES-PTA, and Carrie is our vice president. And I don't know if you are aware, but January is Board of Education Recognition Month. So today, the LES-PTA would like to recognize all of you and thank you for your hard work and dedication to our schools, our students, our teachers, and staff. So we have a little gift for each of you, and it is from a local farm in Lebanon.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
9. There's 9 of us.
9, yes.
Thanks very much.
Okay, repeat that, Carrie.
Thank you.
Carrie who?
Here, Schwartz.
Schwartz. W-A-R-T. And you are what number of Lebanon Road?
Barbara's.
I'm the secretary.
So thoughtful.
83, thank you.
Barbara, so.
Yeah, most of it. Oh, look.
My thing is blocked. Oh. That's very kind. We'll get you a
Thank you both.
Thank you.
lemon pie.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak this evening?
Wish to give us presents?
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion by John, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Our student representatives report. Hello, Lexi.
Hi, Lexi. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Mine is short comparatively. It's not exactly short, but it's I have long.
Give yourself a break. We weren't even in school.
So in LES, in December, students focused on kindness, and they made light bulbs representative of how they are kind to each other. There will be a light laser show on December 20th that taught students about kindness. Their next family event, Reading is So Much Fun, will be held on January 26th, where students and their families will partake in fun reading activities. And because the students have earned so many paws, they are granted another Spirit Day, Silly Sock Day. And students have started to sign up to participate in the upcoming Invention Convention. At LMS, winter sports, basketball, and wrestling are going great. Girls basketball had a home game today and the boys were away. Last week, they had an assembly honoring students who showed pillars they'd been working on in connections. So far, they have courage and gratitude. And yesterday, students participating in Project O took a trip to Hartford. Here at Lyman, last Saturday, January 7th, we held our annual Casey Gates Memorial Wrestling Tournament, where Lyman placed 6th out of 16 teams, and it was the biggest turnout ever. Wow. So, our winter sports are in full swing. And Lyman girls basketball has a home game going on right now. So, before break, Lyman had its band and chorus concert, which was a huge success. The National Honor Society induction will be happening soon on January 12th. And Lyman's midterms are coming up and will take place next week. In preparation for midterms, teachers are helping tutor students all week after school. Student Council is also holding a study night on January 17th. And upcoming, there is a Valentine's Day themed dance that's taking place on February 3rd, and it's being held by the class of 2023.
Great. Oh, thanks, Lexi. Any questions for Lexi? No? All right, thanks so much.
Thanks.
I'm gonna leave it up if it's all right.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. Good luck with midterms. All right, you too.
Thanks.
Reports of committees. Brian, would you like to get us started?
Oh, sure. So we just met, the Finance Committee just met earlier this evening. We got updated capital requests from the superintendent on facilities, technology, and athletics. We had, just if you recall, we had asked facilities in particular to go back and update the list and bring back some of the things that were, may have dropped off over the last few years. And so that happened. That increased that list exponentially as far as putting some of those all buttons back on. With the amount of high dollar items that are on particularly the facilities and the athletics lists, we are going to try to prioritize those, and we've asked this, Mr. Gonzalez to go ahead and start that conversation with us, and then we'll pass that around the finance subcommittee over the next couple of weeks so that we can, when we meet, we're not using that time to talk about that stuff. Some of the list, the other thing we're going to look at too is how can we use some of the non-lapsing money perhaps to offset some of the things that we could get done sooner. Technology in particular, we've got some, I think, challenges where we need to get caught up and get not only the learners, but our staff members in the district up with, programs and product that they can actually use without a boatload of frustration. So that certainly is on our list. Then we went through, Mr. Gonzalez gave us an update on the 23-24 operating budget. I don't know, Andy, are you talking about that?
I'm going to talk about that, yes.
So I'll leave that to him. Don't want to spoil any surprises. And then on the 22-23, Ms. Valerie was nice enough to update us on where we are thus far. A couple of items that are running a little on the overage, one of them being rubbish, which if anybody gets trash pickup in town, we all are feeling that pain as well. And then lastly, we discussed a long-term planning study was brought to us and asked if we would embrace doing a long-term study, both for enrollment going forward, probably out up to about 5 years, as well as good facilities, and with the number of capital items that we have, as well as some of the, I guess, opinions or varied opinions within town or even within boards over, what our school district should look like and versus what it is. To me, it struck me as a good opportunity for us to align boards of finance and boards, well, three of them actually, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Education, if this long-term study were to come to fruition. Now, it was offered up that they're batting around numbers anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, which I don't think is out of the question, certainly for a comprehensive study. And, the idea is we want a good, honest, middle-of-the-road study. It doesn't need to be somebody that's all pro-education. It doesn't need to be somebody that's all pro-fiscal hawk. We need something that's going to be, that everyone in town can get their arms around. And again, with the number of capital projects that we have and large dollar capital projects, I think it's a great time for us to take a look at that holistically, with the town. And I really do think it'll help to align all of us, all of those three boards, and get them on the same page.
It'll also give us facts and data and
not just our opinion or theirs or anybody else's.
And somebody who understands school districts, what school districts need to operate, and is aware of the needs of the buildings. We need to know. We need to have a clear-cut understanding of what would it take, or what will it, I mean, we know how many millions of dollars our buildings need in improvements right now, but hopefully a comprehensive survey would be able, or a study would be able to lay it all out.
And we understand too, because we've talked more about it on the Finance and Facilities Subcommittee. We understand that how frustrating it can be on the Board of Finance's side to not have accurate facts or figures or plans and, stuff like that. So we want, again, try to align that, and I think it might really, I think it might really help to align three boards. It was the consensus of the board to, as a yay, to bring that forward to the,
The subcommittee. How does the board in general feel about that? Go ahead, Danelle.
Who pays for it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, one of my first things back was that we couldn't absorb it. It's just we don't have the wherewithal. So the thought was that if the Board of Education felt it was important, then we should bring it forward to the Board of Selectmen for a meeting.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Maureen?
No, it makes sense.
Okay. All right. Then we will have some conversations, see what we need to do to hopefully move it along and come back to the full board with any information. Oh, there we go again. Second half just started.
Yep, I heard it. He was telling me I was done.
And Nicole, Facilities.
Okay. Okay, the first item was a scissor lift. John Jarvis went and viewed a used scissor lift, 2012 unit. The total cost for the used item plus a full refurbishment would be $11,384, and that is significantly under what we at first thought we were going to have to spend for a scissor lift. So the next step is that I believe it's being delivered tomorrow. Tomorrow?
We don't have an exact delivery date. We will have delivery date tomorrow.
Okay, delivery day is tomorrow. Okay, very good. Next on the agenda, oh, I'm sorry, and that's minus taxes, so it might be even less than that. So it's around $11,000.
So Nicole, you're not getting a delivery tomorrow, you're finding out when delivery is.
Yes.
We'll know the delivery date tomorrow.
And the cost is minus the taxes as well. LMS scoreboard, there are two options. One that has player team foul information and the other one does not. It's a $1,500 difference. We are going to ask Andy to make the decision on which one is best for the LMS gym after he consults with the athletic director at LMS. Because we just don't have enough information as to why we need player team fouls at the middle school level. So Andy will make that decision. LES gym floor, so the black marks on the gym floor are due to moisture found either underneath the wood is rotted, but we don't know where the water is coming from. It's either underneath or it's from the roof leaking, so that information needs to be found out before we even consider replacing the floor at LES. And then the next item was the LMS asbestos project. The company is Barton. They are going to put together a bid package, which will come out at the end of January. The middle school and the kitchen at LES will be done. The total cost of the project is between $118,000 and $122,000, which again is a little bit under the cost or the amount that the town gave us. So we will find out more information about that at the next meeting. Asti Barn, the CO was delivered today, so that is able to be
Used?
used, or animals can move in there. And then last item we talked about was food service. Valerie presented us with information that lunches will continue to be free at least until February, or through February. And Chartwell is doing a nice job revising their menus for more healthy options, more creative options. Carlos and Bobby are going to make a full presentation to the board in March. Andy?
Could I just add that with the, oh my gosh, drawing a blank.
I'm glad it's not only me.
Floor, asbestos.
Gym floor.
Asti barn.
The gym floor, thank you for that reminder. We can just edit that part of the video out. It's been a long night. That we will need to remove the solar panels if we're trying to address a roof leak.
Okay.
Thank you.
And no more fish sticks.
That's
That was
important.
the highlight. Just saying.
Go ahead, Danelle.
I have a couple questions.
Yep.
Do we have a storage place for the scissor lift?
Lyman?
Place for what?
The scissor lift?
Oh, thank you.
Was it Lyman that we were thinking of? Because
I just remember it being a concern at the beginning of discussion.
We'll have to get that answer.
we'll have to find out, yep.
I think he answered it.
He did answer it.
I can't remember what he said.
what it was.
Okay, I don't need to know where it's going as long as it's going somewhere. I'm curious if anyone knows how old the gym is at the elementary school?
I asked that of the subcommittee too. The last
so
time the floor might have been
The
changed.
gym was built in the 50s or 60s?
It was there when I started grammar school.
There you go, so it's that old.
And the stage for the plays was the hallway corridor,
In school, yeah, same place.
before they put the wall up.
Because if it's before 1973, you have to be dealing with asbestos for floor removal.
Let's get those answers for the next.
I don't think that floor was ever replaced,
Probably not.
because I know LMS was never replaced.
Is it possible
I
that
was
they did
born in
anything to
47,
the
so
gym when they put the addition on?
1952?
It's a possibility.
So they don't even know if the water is coming from the ground, running from the walls, or coming from the roof. So that's the first step to solving that problem. So your house.
Just something else I forgot to ask during facilities, but, so Andy, the crack in the sidewalk and stuff at LES, that did get taken care of?
So we repaired with the hot patch
Okay.
some areas of the curbing in the sidewalk,
Right.
but the more significant crack that runs all the way through the concrete, Kevin was able to get a quote from Harrison Concrete,
Okay.
who said that they could fix it, and it was a reasonable amount. I don't have that quote in front of
Yeah,
me,
no, I just-
but they did recommend that we wait until the spring.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other facilities questions? Thanks, Nicole. Maureen, policy.
Policy has not met, but we will, I think we're meeting on the 17th. I think that's pretty well said. I think everybody's agreed.
All right. Back to Nicole for enrollment. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
That's all right. Okay, so we talked first about our subcommittee goals. First, Andy told us what the status is of several of the towns that are sending students, or we were thinking of having them send students. Norwich not interested. Columbia is bringing it back to the board. Lisbon is already in. Sprague has kids coming here, but currently, but their only issue is they will only provide a bus if ag kids come here. Wyndham, no response, and we have not reached out to Canterbury. Next, for the subcommittee goals, we were talking about the preschool and the alternative high school. We are still gathering information for the preschool. Andy spoke to Killingly because they have that implemented there. East Con is a resource, so we have to do more gathering more information, particularly on administration of a full-day preschool and who's in charge of the tuition, gathering those funds. The alternative high school, the biggest issue with that is the location of an alternative high school, and that is also another year of gathering information about that. And then next, we talked about enrollment. Currently, the average number of students per school is under 20. The lowest amount of students is in the current first grade, but Andy feels very strongly about keeping the numbers in kindergarten and first grade low, because that is where a lot of learning happens, particularly around reading. And then the final thing we talked about was Jay is continuing to make efforts to reach out to other sending towns, having kids come and shadow students here at Lyman, and he would like to see more high school, middle school integration, like, because they're so in walking distance, have Lyman kids go there and do some things, or have middle school kids come here and do some things. So it was a good meeting.
Any questions for enrollment?
Just one. Did we, am I reading this right? Did we lose six students between Christmas break and coming back?
Yeah, and I would say that that's not atypical to see a fluctuation around that time. Many families, as they prepare to move, will wait for more of a natural break with the winter break and holiday, knowing that there's going to be a week off, etc. Yeah, so we did have that shift.
Just want to make sure I was reading it right. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, Alexis, negotiations.
Negotiations has not met, although we will be meeting shortly because we have our secretaries and our instructional assistants to work on.
Great, thank you. John, Superintendent Eval.
The Superintendent Eval Subcommittee met on the 4th to pretty much compile the input we received from members. Thank you for your input, and we will be discussing this further in our executive session, hopefully.
Sounds good, thank you. Danielle, curriculum.
We did not meet.
Oh my gosh.
No report.
And Dawn, safety and security.
We did not meet.
No report. Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. We will move along to our administrators' reports. Are there any administrators who wish to add to their report?
I guess I could just draw attention to the report that I
recently passed out.
I do want to say there's some pictures on there. The downstairs, if you want, I don't know if you guys on your way out want to take a little trip downstairs and see the paint job that finally matches the rest of the school.
Looks nice.
Looks good.
So the halls were all done with the 4 feet of gray, white, and then the blue trim. So everything everything matches. We did do something that actually started today. Today was the first day of it. It's our I Choose You program, where our student athletes will give a teacher, a staff member, custodian, lunch person, anyone, school secretary, anyone in the school, their jersey for the day as a sign of appreciation and gratitude. Thank you for, being there for me. Thank you for inspiring me, motivating me, just being there for me when I need you. Today was the first day, and we got just great feedback from some staff members who were surprised that somebody, gave them the jersey for the day. So it was really cool, and we look forward to doing this, some more throughout the rest of the winter season and then on into, other seasons.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you.
I love that.
That is, what a great idea.
So Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year.
New Year. Good to see you all. As you know, we have the best PTA ever.
Yeah.
We brought lots of
great activities to our school this December too, with our holiday extravaganza, which was well received by the community and family. And also we focused on kindness this past month too, and PTA sponsored a laser light show with a kindness theme too. So it was a great December, a busy December. We're getting back to it. We're reviewing our expectations for January. We're gearing up for our next diagnostic review, where we assess assess students and monitor progress, determine what interventions we need to help students with going forward. So that will be occurring next week. But I just wanted to speak a little bit to our math curriculum as we continue to implement iReady. I've been seeing some great things in the classroom, doing some observations, particularly in student discourse where kids are talking about their learning with the math program. They're talking to each other about their learning, but they're talking, it's such great routines that we have in place right now that the teachers have put in place. So the kids are really able to meet with their partners and not just talk for a couple minutes about how they solve the equation, but for 25, 30 minutes, these wonderful routines. So going forward, iReady, well-researched with instructional strategies. So we're just so proud to have this program and have it fully implemented going forward. Thanks. Have a great night.
Thanks,
I have
Jess.
a question, Jess. So after hearing those high school kids with their leadership.
Yeah.
Last year in January, you had the leadership thing at LES.
Yep.
Is that anything that's going to happen this year too?
Yeah, our students just went yesterday.
Oh, cool.
So our students went to the CAS Leadership Conference yesterday, and I spoke to them today, and they loved it. They will be recognized in front of you in February.
Yay. And
So
how many
they'll come.
kids this year? Was it still 8?
We had 6 students, 2 from each classroom, so our students will come talk with you in February about their experience.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If you have Facebook, they share this information on Facebook. That's the only, I just saw those images, those photos today or yesterday for it, so, yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad they do that every year.
Any other administrators? Okay.
I just had a quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
I didn't know if anyone knew how the clinic went. That I think it's great that Jeanette Picard did this and got a drawing so that our kids had Connecticut Sun come to the middle school. I was just curious who could speak to that.
Yeah, I think I can, and our superstar basketball teacher is here as well. So they did come. It was not Connecticut Sun players. It was Connecticut Sun personnel, which I said was still great, still an opportunity that we were lucky to have. All of our learners had the opportunity to spend some time with those staff members that came and go through some, stretching, some ball handling, a little bit of shooting. Miss Picard kicked off the festivities by knocking down a jump shot. You don't have to tell them how many turns.
When I did it with the 7th and 8th group, it took me about 6 tries to do my layup. But with the 5th and 6th graders, it only took 2 or 3. So I just got home too late the day before to practice in the driveway. It was a terrific event. Unfortunately, as you know, the women are paid at a different rate than the men, so they were in Europe playing in other teams, but we had 2 great members of the Connecticut Sun staff who came. It was amazing to see them getting so many kids involved. So they wanted to do the whole school, and we all felt it was important to allow everybody to participate. So we had, as I said, one group of 7th and 8th graders, and then a second group of 5th and 6th graders, and they had all the kids practicing drills, dribbling, making shots, passing to each other, very enthused. At the end, the kids asked them to sign. They brought basketballs, they asked them to sign them, they gave them photos. The kids were all really very well behaved, very appreciative. I got a lot of thank yous in the hall from kids, and frankly, I never win anything. So the last time I won something was when I figured out the trick at the carnival when I was 12. This was a really, just a wonderful event and a really great way to kind of get ourselves back into school after, having a tough couple of years. So this was just wonderful, and I'm just so grateful to the Connecticut Sun for doing that. So,
Well, thanks for applying, Jeanette. Thank you.
and I'll practice more.
Thanks. Okay, superintendent's report.
Yeah, I'll jump right into our COVID health update. So from our last dashboard report, which was the 23rd, right before we went on break, until what I reported out last week. We had 2 additional student cases and 3 staff cases. I think that's important to note because the CDC recently listed 4 Connecticut counties in the high orange category, which means that there is like a surge and they're asking for them to follow higher mitigation strategies. Wyndham, Tallinn, New London, and Hartford were not in that category, and I think we are doing much better at this time of year. Like I've reminded the board several times, from like Thanksgiving through the holiday break was a really rough stretch. Now, we are still having cases, but I think everybody is more mindful of how they can protect themselves, how they can take care of themselves. We're doing a great job in the nurses' offices of identifying symptoms, getting people home. We did send home those test kits before break. So just as a heads up, if we do go into the high orange category, they are recommending people living in those counties designated by that color category are advised to wear a mask indoors in public, stay up to date with COVID-19 vaccines, and get tested if they have symptoms. And the commissioner of the Department of Public Health has said that we're witnessing that long anticipated surge, but right now we are not seeing that. So I'm hopeful that we can make it through the remainder of the winter with limited impact.
Great. Good news.
Substitute rates of pay. So around this time last year, I was reminding everyone on the board that in 2019, Governor Lamont passed new legislation to increase minimum wage to $15 per hour by 2023. We had to be at $14 an hour on July 1st of 2022, and now we are having to be at $15 an hour on June 1st of 2023. So we're currently, for the substitute custodian, at $14. My proposal is that we bump it to $16 rather than just to the minimum wage of $15. That would be the same for secretaries as well, move it from $14 to $16. Substitute instructional assistant, we not only did the hourly breakdown, but we also have identified what it would be per day. So we'd be moving the substitute instructional assistant to $115 a day. Substitute teacher with a bachelor's degree would move from $105 to $120 a day. Substitute teacher with teacher certification in Connecticut would move from $126 to $140 a day. And then we also want to address the substitute nurse pay, which has been kind of stagnant. It's well over the minimum wage, but we feel it needs to be addressed to move that from $24 an hour to $26 an hour. I feel that that proposal keeps us in line with the requirements, but also makes us marketable and competitive. Any questions about that proposal? All right. The bus transportation contract, and both the sub rates of pay and the bus transportation contract are action items later in the meeting. The proposal came back for 5 years. The first year has an increase of 4.9%, and then the remaining life of the contract is 4% annually. So that has a breakdown also in terms of cost. So 4.9% increase would have the total contract cost of $879,192 for next year.
And that's eliminating that one bus?
That is eliminating the one bus as well.
Wow, that's a lot of money. That's expensive.
Is it possible for us to get that copied, that worksheet of the proposal?
Sure.
Yeah, do you mind? Thank you.
So it's that page and the following.
Make me one of these.
Make one for each one of us, if you don't mind, Val.
How many are there? There's nine members.
And while Val is doing that, I can draw your attention to the board. I'll quickly go through limited slides from the presentation. I do have a rough draft of an entire presentation, which I will bring to you in February as a more formal proposal as a superintendent proposed budget, looking for you to make it a Board of Education adopted budget. But I do want to let you know a couple of things. So first and foremost, the budget priorities for me will be to make sure that we continue to exemplify transparency and try to build trust with this process. So try to give everybody as much information and make sure it's accurate and timely. But as we go through this budget process, there's going to be a lot of difficult decisions to make, but we are always going to be striving to provide the best for our learners while going for excellence in all we do. And we're always, as our board goal states, working to be fiscally responsible. The context of the 23-24 budget is a little bit different than maybe it has been in years past. And as a reminder to everybody, we'll always be aligned to the vision, the strategic plan, and our district goals. But this year, it really had to be responsive to some challenges with inflation, which everybody's feeling, and running a school, we're being impacted by that as well. Contractual increases, we had 4 contracts that we've worked on just this fiscal year, and we are still in the midst of what experts are calling the Great Resignation, which played a big factor in the contracts that were settled. And I think by the end of the budget season last year, we were feeling that we were all in this together across our town, and we had some great support from our parents to other boards, and we were able to get a budget that was what we needed. But I'd like to start with that frame of mind this year. So we had our first budget input session after we had developed budget proposals at the building level, critiqued them and had conversation with the leadership team. We brought it to the community for their input. Limited input at this point, and that's understandable because there are going to be a lot of things that are going to change, and I think that after seeing my most recent projection and having a follow-up input session, we might receive more feedback, and now these are, the early stages of the deliberation here at the Board of Ed level. So here's some historical proposals for you to take a look at, and again, for clarification, these proposals reflect the percent increase year to year if we were fully funded for what we requested. So these numbers look lower than what you might have heard, but that's because we are basing them off of what we requested, not what we were given. The historical town-approved budget is exactly what we were given. So for example, last year it shows that we requested or proposed a 1.1% increase. That is not the number that went to the Board of Finance. The number was much higher. But again, that was operating off of what we were given, which was the 20 million, not necessarily what we asked for. So just didn't want there to be any dispute with that. So the initial projection that I shared at the budget input sessions was taking everything that we have going in our schools, maintaining the current staffing levels, accounting for all the contractual increases, and moving everything over. It was a 7.2% increase. Additionally, to the current staffing services and programs that were rolled over, there was no new district initiatives, no new staffing. But we did have to, we do have to be mindful of the unfunded mandates, some new reading assessments K-3, phonics instructional requirements, professional development requirements that were legislated, curricular requirements and diversity mandates, along with all the way down to, and this kind of shows how far-reaching the state can be in their things that they tell you need to fund. Next year we have to have menstrual products in each of our schools. And that's a cost to us. So the current projection, after going back and making some difficult decisions and also being creative with cost savings measures, we were able to get that percentage increase down to 3.7, which is a substantial savings. I'm going to show you how we got to that number. So staff reorganization, we made the difficult decision to say that we're going into next year with one less teacher across the district. That's a savings of over $58,000. The voluntary early retirement incentive plan, we did have 5 teachers so far. I say so far because the deadline is Friday, but we do have 5 teachers so far. And if all 5 of those teachers retire, receive the benefit of the VERUP, and we replace them, we still realize a savings of over $103,000. That number would increase if we had more. That number could be slightly different depending on how we're able to hire in, what step we're able to come in, and what benefits those new hires would take. The change of carrier for insurance is already factored into the initial projection, but stays in the current projection. We're currently part of the state partnership plan. They were suggesting that we have a placeholder of a 12% increase. We decided to look elsewhere to go with a mimicked plan through Brown & Brown that will provide the same services. Providers might be a little bit different, but that would save us over $143,000. Transportation, we were just reviewing the new contract. We've talked a lot about enrollment in our buildings. We have not yet addressed that within our bus contract. As I said in the subcommittee meeting, I do feel that M&J has been very responsive and supportive and collaborative, but we have run many times without a bus on a given day. It finally got to the point where I said, how about in the new contract, you budget for one less bus and see what we can make happen. That would be a $72,000 savings. And then the big one here that I made sure that I put that this figure is a moving target and subject to change. It could change tomorrow, which could increase the savings. It could change tomorrow, and we actually have increase in cost. But at the time that I put together this budget projection, there was a savings of tuition and transportation within our special education services of over $424,000. So on the next slide, I do have a little bit of a breakdown of what the voluntary early retirement incentive plan looks like in year one, what that cost would look like in year 2 and year 3. This is really just a slice of what will be presented to you in February. We'll get much more into enrollment. We'll report out on some of the new initiatives and how they are doing. We will talk a little bit about revenue. We'll talk about class size. But these are the big figures that I feel you needed to see to be able to know where we are. I don't know if you have any questions about that current projection of the 3.7.
Go ahead, Nicole. So based on the early retirements, maybe if you get some more, or just working with the numbers and like reconfiguring, is it still a possibility to retain that one staff member that you would like to?
Yeah, so the likelihood that we get retirees a notification about that between today and Friday, I would say is pretty slim, because this incentive program and working alongside the LEA, we purposefully opened it up back in November so that people had substantial time to think about it, but we would be able to know in a time that could really help us in preparing for next year's budget. That being said, if more people come on board, greater savings. But as I pointed out, there is a potential that given how we hire that savings could be a little bit less. It's still going to be substantial, but it might not be exactly that figure. The other thing that I did share at the subcommittee meeting, and I know this is not necessarily what you might like to see based on your question or what I want to see as superintendent, if we get into a very difficult budget deliberations, we might have to consider not replacing all 5 of those, which would be a greater savings, but would require a lot of thoughtful planning to how can we still provide the best, which I said we want to do for our learners in all of our schools.
Go ahead, Brian.
So I didn't get a chance to ask Andy because time was tight, but so the 3.7%, is that where you currently feel that we are as far as the no frills, bare bones? In other words, that's about the basement?
Yeah, great question. So I can just call your attention again to the slides. So just looking at some of our budget drivers, 3 categories: employee salaries, benefits, and other fixed costs and services along with transportation equates to 96.3% of our budget. So we're really only trying to maneuver just over 3%. So yes, no frills, no new initiatives, no new staffing. That 3.7 is about as low as we can go. Now, Val and I still, we're looking over budget books and asking, could we cut X, Y, or Z? But those dollar amounts are so small that if we started cutting supply lines and other things of that nature, that number would move from 3.7 to 3.68.
That's why I asked now. I wanted to know where we were at.
Yeah, very little room for movement. If we wanted that number to move again, it's staff.
And our contractual obligations are higher than 3.7.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Absolutely, no, I understand.
That with settlements among the unions, they're higher than 3.7. With rubbish removal, it's higher than 3.7. You could go down the list.
Contract, it's higher than 3.7. So even the fact that we're at a 3.7, honestly, is blowing my mind.
Yeah. Again, as we pointed out, the biggest driver in the savings that we've realized for this current projection is special education tuition and transportation, and that could change tomorrow morning.
The other follow-up to that, I mean, I know we talked about rubbish is one thing, and as silly as rubbish sounds, there's a lot of drivers that price is likely very, very soft because of other outside factors, with shipping trash to New Jersey and some other stuff. But I am curious, what did we use, because the other big wild card too is fuel, both diesel and fuel oil. So what did we use as a basis?
The town locked in December.
For next fiscal year as well?
Yeah, so we know our costs. I have them. I think we're at $3.80 a gallon for heating oil now, and we locked in at $3.60, so we didn't do much better, but we did go down a little bit.
But that is through the next, so it is
so I
all
was
through
able to
fiscal
actually,
24.
Yeah, unlike last year, we were very nervous to negotiate, so we just negotiated and locked in our costs, so we knew what we were doing.
All right, so we are locked in through fiscal 24.
The only thing that varies differently is with all the COVID stuff and fresh air discussions, the buildings are colder. We're using more oil. The buildings, we're having colder degree days, so the winters are colder. And I have data that I get this from the oil company, so they have software that can show me awesome graphics. But the buildings are a little bit colder by maybe 3 or 4 degrees, but it's enough to use a little bit more. But I've made sure that my usage is on point. We know the gallons, so I feel more comfortable about that budget than I do about this budget. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I'm that's
I have all my variables at
locked
least
in, because
secured,
I know
yeah.
halfway through the year we were kind of scrambling to figure out what we were going to do.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks. That's one.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Is 3.7 what you are going to present to Board of Finance?
I couldn't tell you. I'm being honest with you. That's where we are at this moment. So if my Board of Finance presentation, if my presentation to you, that you adopt my proposal and then go to the Board of Finance, if it were tomorrow, 3.7 would be a very reasonable number. I know we're only focused on Lebanon, as we should be, but the numbers I'm hearing in other districts are double digits almost. So to be where we are, and again, that could shift dramatically by the time even February comes.
That's why I'm asking, because 3.7 is rock bottom, obviously, but I don't want the Board of Finance to think that this, I would like more for our schools. So if we can go to a 4 or a 5, to get more for our schools that we need, then I would like that more.
And that's what the next month will be about. Just reminding you, when I presented at the input sessions just a month ago, it was at 7.2. And now we're at 3.7. We'll see where it is in February, but when we get deeper into the budget and we start looking at cuts, or that's when you have the opportunity to ask for additions, and we can go back to the drawing board and come together with a number that you all support, and then it's my job from there to present that.
Did you have something else, Brian?
So while I agree, we always want to try to eke something else out. I think it's going to be a little bit of a wrestling match to get through.
But it shouldn't be, Brian.
I understand.
It shouldn't be, because everything else is going up.
Okay.
Why are our schools constantly taking a hit? It's not fair.
I am not saying one way or the other, Nicole.
I know.
I necessarily agree with you.
I know.
But I would poise the discussion as this. If there is something that, or some things that the board feels that we should add, much like the facilities discussion and the finance discussion we've had, then there should be a very deliberate pecking order of one or two items. If we went to, I'm just going to throw something out. If we went to 4.5x is attainable. If we went to 5.5x is attainable. Whatever. But if there's a couple of some things that we'd like to do, then we should try to. But I would be very careful about throwing the whole kitchen sink in there. Just be very deliberate about, I guess, what we'd ask for. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Brian's viewpoint. And I do look back to last year. Last year, I feel that I appropriately was aggressive in initiatives or recommendations to you. And then we were very thoughtful about what we ultimately moved forward and stood behind, and we got the support that we needed to launch some of those things. But I had to, I was trying to be forward thinking in that this year was going to be very tough. And that's how this budget has been built. There are no new initiatives, there are no new staffing that's been proposed, and that's purposeful. I think that we're all in this together. I think bringing forth a budget that shows that we were very considerate of that, and that's where we landed, is a number that is no frills. And we try to put that out there right from the get, I think is the best approach to have this year. That being said, I do think with what we have and what we've built, we do have what's best. That can change year to year, but I would be proud to present that budget and stand behind what we're offering our learners.
Same here, because this is the year that, we know that the ESSER funding is
gone.
Yep, sunsetting. And I do feel like this percentage is appropriate. I know we're not done. We still have some work to do, but I think where we're at right now is a good place to be for now.
If we didn't cut any staff, I would feel more comfortable. I just have a really hard time cutting staff.
I always do too. I hear you, Nicole, 100%. I do think though that this year is a little different just based on our plan for the ESSER funding. But again, that could change between now and, the time that we adopt the budget, so. Any other comments on that? All right, thanks, Andy. All right, we'll move along to our finance report for 22-23.
Hello. Hello. You guys are looking at December financials, so we're almost halfway through the year. Questions, if anybody has them. I put some notes at the bottom, so we're at about 40% now. We historically, so that's a 5-year average, has been about 42%, which I think is fairly on target. These financials do represent a credit from M&J, which was a very honest and awesome thing that they did, was that they identified that they had billed us incorrectly and we had paid incorrectly. So we were able to get our money back, and that was a very honest thing for them to do, especially considering all of our negotiations, discussions, right? Not big dollar amounts, but I always find this wonderful, and I love this part that we do in our school, but we do take in revenue for livestock sales. So we took in some money for selling, I don't even know what we sold, probably sheep. There's a lot of sheep out there. But I just think, I don't know, as someone who enjoys farming, I think it's really cool what we do. They sell the lamb meat, we sell the meat. Stewie is the name of the cow out there, and eventually he might help us with some revenue as well. But I just think it's really cool that we get an opportunity to show the kids that this is where your food can come from, and we can help support the program by that, and we're not just living with these animals as a huge expense.
Can we get more Stewies?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Stewie is 700 pounds, I found out.
Yeah.
That was back in the middle of December.
Yeah, he's a baby. Yeah.
I wasn't saying he's a baby. He seems gigantic when I was out there.
Yeah, so.
An average of 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. Other than that, there were not any, big things that happened or gigantic drivers. We had some discussions in the finance meeting about some of these overages. If anybody has any questions, I would certainly reiterate them or answer them.
Any questions on the budget report?
As usual, we have our IT and capital reports. Represents a lot of work that Jock's been doing to make sure that we get the staff refresh plan underway, and we purchased some more Promethean boards. And I was wondering if the board would entertain me showing the pictures that I wanted to share in the other meeting.
Yes.
So to give some feedback, can you pull that up for me?
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you.
I switched users. So.
Okay, all right. I'll just do a little bit of feedback. We've been doing a lot of great things in food service committees where the students are allowed to come in, and I thought it was so great that the high schoolers came in to talk about their voice, and one of the, Sam, who was here, was actually one of the members at the food service committee. So again, we are soliciting the students' voice. We want to know what they want to eat, when they want to eat it, and what they want to do. So we got some great feedback. No fish sticks anymore across the district. They're going to be taken off the menu. We need to add, they want more fruit. The elementary school wants Braces Friendly Foods. They want holiday dinners. It was just really neat to see the kids talk about the food. They overall had really great feedback for our program too. I know that they're happy about the ice cream that just got put in the middle school. So Carlos is really receptive to the feedback, and it's really by design the purpose of those meetings. We had some build your own burger days, and so the high school was really into that. They want to talk about getting some of the family consumer science students and maybe some of the VOAG students involved in the kitchen and see if there's any opportunity for volunteering. We had some back and forth discussion about why we can't give them dragon fruit and things like that, why we don't have access to certain things, and why we can't just slab a big steak on a plate and feed it to them, because that's what they asked for at one point. So in response to that, and in conjunction with asking the students what they want, we ran a student choice day at Lyman. So Carlos came up with 2 items. There was a mozzarella and pepperoni panini, and then the chicken teriyaki pineapple sandwich, another panini, and the kids had a chance to taste test and then vote that day. And so I'll show you some of the slides I was adding. Oh, you got it? Oh, yeah, look at this. Teamwork makes the dream work. So I took some pictures. This was a little bit of the advertisement that was up. So there was on the left side, you'll see mozzarella and pepperoni panini. Teriyaki pineapple chicken sandwich was the other option. And so this was what was up on the screen while they were eating. So their job was to text that number, 138305, that number to the number on top, and that was how you placed your vote.
Just at Lyman, though?
For now, yeah. So this is just a sample of what it looked like. Everybody got a nice little portion. There was some great participation. The line was all the way back to the cafeteria once everybody figured out what we were actually doing. Keep going, and by the end, all those samples were gone. So this is who won. The mozzarella pepperoni panini won, and it actually showed up on the menu last week, and the kids are super excited that their voice was heard.
They do have one scheduled at LMS already.
Tomorrow.
Oh, good.
So I was going to say to everybody, if you have middle schoolers,
How will they vote at the middle?
I'm going to be handing out papers.
Okay.
It's going to be a little bit
I did
different.
not have a phone.
We were pretty confident that everybody at the high school had a phone, and it did work out, but not everybody at the middle school is going to have a phone, so we're going to have to do a paper vote, and we're going to have the district manager, Bobby, there, and myself there to help facilitate all that through all the waves. So I'm actually
Next time,
kind of...
just make a Google form. Have them do it through their Chromebooks. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, we're just gonna see.
like
There's
paper.
chaos in this cafeteria sometimes. So I don't know what the options will be for tomorrow. But if you have a middle schooler, tell them come hungry and ready to vote, and they're gonna enjoy it. It was a
These
really.
two things they're gonna vote on?
I don't know. He's stewing. Yeah, he's got different stuff he's gonna stew up for the middle school, and we're not gonna do it at the elementary school, just because that's a lot with the littles. But for now, this is a really
Taste testings and things like that.
yeah. They're gonna feature items, and they'll be able to do taste testing, but we won't be able to like go down the road and do the vote and all that stuff. But
Each age group has very different flavor profiles.
Yes, of course.
right.
Thank you, Val.
Exciting,
No problem.
Val.
That's
Any
awesome.
questions for Val?
Any questions?
All right.
And again, you guys will see Bobby and Carlos in March here. So they'll be able to kind of bring this all back.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Are they gonna bring us food?
Yes.
Yes.
The board wants to taste test. All right, we have some new business, a couple of first readings on some policies. Maureen, do you have anything to add there?
Not really. Do you have anything to add on the first one? The second one is easy. Nope. It's a delete.
That's right.
No, it's just really state level changes that we have to comply with.
Okay, just become familiar with that policy. And we have some action items. Action item number 1, act on the letters of retirement.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the letters of retirement with remorse.
Second?
Motion by John, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion?
This is, when I was 18 years old and coaching basketball at Bacon Academy, we practiced and played at Jack Jackter, and the custodian was Ken. Back then. Now I'm at the end of my career, and Ken's still hanging on.
Wow. Well, we certainly do wish him and Mr. Giza good luck in the future, for sure. They'll be missed. All those in favor of accepting the letters of retirement, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Our next action item, act on the changes to the substitute rates of pay. Those were included in your packet.
I'll make a motion that we accept each of those rate changes as presented.
Second?
Motion by Brian, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Action item number 3, act on the bus transportation contract. Is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to accept the bus transportation contract as presented?
I have permission to execute.
And give him
Superintendent permission.
to execute.
I thought we were on bus transportation.
I need to be able to sign.
And give the superintendent permission to execute the contract?
Second.
Motion by Nicole, seconded by Brian. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Great, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is anticipated executive session. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Maureen,
I'll second.
seconded by John. All those in favor of moving into executive session, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. We'll enter at 8:48.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Just check my phone. There you go.
Sorry
Figured
for
I
not
better say
inviting you
something
tonight.
today.
Have a great evening.
Am I not invited?
You're not invited, no.
You are not invited this evening.
Oh, it's like
I feel
super
uneasy about it
early.
too. I like to talk about people.